Welcome back to episode 8 of the history of the presidency. We will finish 7 presidents today. We have never done that much. How much presidents we will do is a lot of to understand. This counted as 6 episodes, so 2, 1, 7, a lot, a few fatal, and 5 probably, I don't know. Let's turn to the history of the presidency. The history of the presidency after the nation of Watergate to know about this case was then making it really. After President Nixon resigned, President Ford swiftly took his way to the presidency. President Ford, his first job was this. He dealt with events on Watergate. So, how does he have to do this? He spent so much of his time dealing with Watergate, he decides to pardon Nixon. The pardoning of Nixon did cost him his re-election. And how do we know that? We know that. The things about Ford is very unlikely. He was honest, he's very creative, and about it. Back to Mike. Mike.
I think Ford's presidency is really not that really commendable because we don't know about him today, and we'll never know about him that much.
Prince Ford. Nice. Jerry Ford also stepped into the White House with many consequences to this. His first consequence was how to administrate and do what he did. Meaning, how do he does what he does. And how do we do that? How is Ford that he's using many things. He also earned many idols of things that could have led to his end. But Ford did resist. He also North Vietnam broke good and they attacked on South Vietnam.
Really, that was the losing part of the Vietnam War. Will be the part of real history.
Yes, that is the losing part. And how Ford administrated it is nothing. Ford did nothing. Ford and Bradley earned some assassination attempts. In that same year, he ran for re-election against election of his own. Against the election phase, Carter beat him. Democrat Jimmy Carter beat him in a very vivid victory, and a very not that surprising victory. Jimmy Carter's presidency was very talented. He inspired confidence.
He's the second-rate president of all time, I say.
I say too! And Carter was a rich man, but he definitely had an idea of the common man. One of the biggest things in Carter's presidency dealing with the Cold War. And as he did deal with the Cold War, there was other things he did. He knew that it was time for a president to coordinate a new idea for the presidency. Not be executive, not be important. He knew what to do. And he did what he did. And no one will know how Carter really did this. Because Carter left a legacy with some loopholes that could be solved. If we know about Carter's legacy today, he's one of the most important phrases is how he used Congress. Even though Democrats, he did have some trouble with it. And the importance of Carter's presidency is with us every time we do something. Because Carter's presidency was really the incarnal presidency. Really the most presidency of industry. He used the ideas or techniques, but he didn't do them. Another thing that Carter is famous for is he inaugurated the Cold War very successfully. But Carter is also kind of famous. As Carter worked on his new ideas was a very faithful. It did not fit the 1980s that much. And truly, many people will walk a country in and don't like a country is long, Iraq, and currently did the horrible thing. They hold it tons of Americans at hostage. That was the horrible part of America. Will be the horriblest part that we'll ever see in our land to excite the land. However, things that I think that Carter could administrate on his wings because he really didn't have much of support by the nation behind him and the nation to coordinate him. Because Carter definitely had some strength in him, we know him today as a person with some strength. His strength to do it is a very feminine thing.
I think Carter's smart confidence, and we definitely know that.
I agree. I agree too. I agree too. I agree. I'm just joking.
Are you in the face?
Sorry. Sorry. Stop over it. No. Here. Now what did do his face? In the last stage of his presidency, he lost re-election to Ronald Reagan. Just like him. And what Carter is what he is. Carter knew what he was doing, and he used what he did. We'll see you soon. Importantly, it's commercial time.
Really commercial time. Oh, we gotta sit. Only a few minutes to talk.
Well, that's how you're gonna be. Okay? Do it. Have to remind you that thanks. Why are we arguing with them? Oh yeah, time. About it. The presidency of Ronald Reagan is amazing. Ronald Reagan swept it very, very personal, but he also swept it very incoordinate. One of the worst moments of his presidency is definitely the Challenger disaster. It was a bad moment. Reagan is kind of responsible for it. And why? Because it was incoordinately ideal. This idea didn't shape Reagan at all. Amazing. The day after the disaster, he talks about it, uses it, and he really incoordinates the idea. But he knows what he does, and he knows what he'll do. But Reagan doesn't really have that much. Despisingly and another thing that he does is not diseasing the diseases. Really? Not diseasing the diseases? He is on the list of the second worst president of all time in my list, and I will not like Reagan because of the things that he did on issues that resented. As you know, Reagan was re-elected, but in the second term, he lost things. One of the things to end the Cold War was another thing that he did. A very fun.
Reagan was a horrible president. He really didn't pro. He didn't really do anything.
Hey! You want to see me how I talk? Wait, get this guy out of here! Okay? Okay, it's time. Now Reagan's re-election really incoordinates a little too much of the industry.
Okay, let's get into motion.
Not back to Mike, actually. Sorry. Now, we need to know that Reagan did in his second term a lot of things based on the Cold War. Now, back to Mike.
Well, I think this is really a good news. We explain this today, we explain this tomorrow, but we definitely know it.
And Reagan did what he did. One of the things that he really did, unpleasant to me and unpleasant to you and probably unpleasant to the world, was how he definitely didn't inswift things very peacefully into this presidency. Reagan definitely didn't hold that much goodness into it. And he built his imagination, his idea to incorporate it, to get the goodness of something, a new kind of idea. It was really his imagination, and his own imagination couldn't end Reagan. Ronald Reagan had no real issues, but he definitely had some issues. As we know today, Ronald Reagan uses. He didn't do that much disease things. Again, whoa, this guy, whoa, wow, how is this invincible? Because we got this guy and he doesn't know anything that can really get into motion? What the heck? And partly at the end, he also inflicted the Berlin Wall fell. That was actually good to fun. Tearing down a wall that's been separating families for decades. And they try to escape the Soviet Union. Just I'm already dead.
No, I'm not. Really, the presidency of Reagan's bad.
And we will always know Reagan's presidency was bad. We have tons of proof. But this proof is how he emancipated lots of things that were bad by just being president of the United States. I know how the commercial is done, but I know how commercial done. Hey, commercial. Okay, I was over. Now, with the time that Reagan ended his presidency, the Berlin Wall collapsed, and George Walker Bush won a surprising election that importantly defined George Walker Bush's presidency. In his campaign slogan, he said, "No taxes." Read my lips. Now, no taxes, and we had a whole something. No, it was not something. It was something else.
George Walker Bush is the third worst president of the time. The best is the guy after him.
Because really, the unfortunate thing is that it's a very, very new idea that defines the presidency. Because George Herbert Walker Bush is a man who definitely had no decision as president, and he will never will. Between history, George Herbert Walker Bush is definitely been a president who admitted. The first thing was the end of the Cold War, and it very famous. 1980. 1990. Another thing. It's about it. The thing about George Herbert Walker Bush that is very mentioned.
Personality, wore glasses, he really had a
One of the first things is a year later collapsed the Soviet Union. Another thing was the Gulf War. In the Gulf War, there was tons of things going on. Many things that were totally shadowing his career and making his presidency miserable. And he is a great bad president. George Bush, in all ways, was a president who was. He had a very debated, and he also had a presidency was not just unfortunate. It was a very, very unique presidency, I would say. And George Herbert Walker Bush in the Gulf War, he said tonality and what he knows. By overthrowing Saddam Hussein, well, George W. Bush, but by not trying to overthrow Saddam Hussein, Bush doing it, George Herbert Walker Bush is unknown. These personalities, less known than George W. Bush. Really, George H.W. Bush is not really known, and very famous. He lost his second term to Bill Clinton, and very, very personality. Ross Perot also lost his presidency to Bill Clinton. Ross Perot, Bill Clinton voted. So we can get his presidency to be known today as presidency of Innocence. It's time for commercial. Really, how much do you have to say this? Just so rebuttable and... Oh, it's time. And QDAT, Bill Clinton's presidency was a great presidency. He was a hero to many people. What Bill Clinton did, he also had a very big appetite for junk food, too. And a lot of things that does. Bill Clinton also had a lot of new ideas. His ideas really enveloped the presidency. He helped the poor. He was a president who definitely earned a number one spot and didn't earn a one spot for doing some things that were greatly enveloped her. Because the really beginning of Bill Clinton's presidency is how he emancipated things and how he did things. It's definitely how we know he did things. And we know Bill Clinton today is a laudant figure of new ideas. Ideas that could not be forgotten by us and ourselves.
Bill Clinton is the hero of us all. Bill Clinton is the real hero of the crisis. He's definitely a president who incorporates many things. And Bill Clinton is known.
Bill Clinton is a president who was greatly intolerant. He is a very, very important president. He also used his presidency to do what he did. He did this very correctly. By doing what he did, he also honored the trust of the nation by using tons of things that could be known. The presidency of Clinton is the presidency of the raging. It's really the presidency that can get us into the motion of all fixing things and all fixing things and Pixington, Lexington, Rottington, Rotington, Trottington, Rotington, and even Maxington. But we don't know his presidency today. It's a very, very unfortunate presidency. Because we don't know it as unfortunate. And we don't know it today that much. Clinton was a friendly inventor and also used things. He was elected for a second term, but into a second term he did some things that are sharply in standard advice. First, dealing with communist Europe, he used a new idea for the presidency. He was
Here we're dealing with communist Europe, and then the war, probably the collapse of the Soviet Union. He was definitely there.
The will had become a will power, because the will was power, and the will will become motivated by a losing country. It could have fell down. Clinton used wills to not be, just like Carter did. The things about his presidency is a very, very united things. The first ideas of his presidency induce how he uses it, the will he has staged. In communist Europe, another scandal was coming about. As you know, he evidently was kind of making sex with a woman and not his own wife. It was like one of the servants, and her name was something. Maybe Litsky, I think. And Clinton was impeached for it. By a few votes, Clinton was kicked out, and by fraudulently lying is the system. He lied about it, and they impeached him. He kicked by Republicans. The parades of Clinton was really brutal. He also dealt some more people that had assassinated him on him 2 times, and he had evaluated a lot of things, just like 2 assassination attempts on Ford. But another thing that Clinton is a hero for is how he invented it. By the end of Clinton's presidency, he's definitely a hero. He's operated. And how do I say that?
Clinton's a hero. Clinton's a man. And is Clinton a man? Is Clinton...
Yeah. It's time for commercial time.
Really, you just interrupted me.
It's time for injection. Welcome back. This is the history of presidency. We enjoyed the presidency of George W. Bush is a horrible presidency. George W. Bush didn't do that things. And what George W. Bush did was a lot to emancipate. But we do know that George W. Bush was. He was a cheerleader. When they added girls to the thing, it's about it. I know what. And about it. And about the thing that George W. Bush did was nice, especially he had 2 inaugurations, because his personality was expensive. It's really 2 moderation for the corridor and about it. He also says this. It's about when the horrible tragedy of 9/11 hit. In 2001, he definitely had the idea. He knew what to do, and he knew what to invade about it. And George W. Bush is a bad president for reasons. He's a lot of people. By doing this, he declared a very, very unnice presidency.
Really a presidency. Continues the end of really the torrent of ideas that he could deal with.
George W. Bush, by phone, declared the war on terror, and the war on drugs. It was a very brutal war. The war on terror indeed had been a very, very common thing, and accordingly, by overthrowing Saddam Hussein, he invented it. He was elected for a second term, but in turn, George W. Bush. George W. Bush is a president, definitely. But Bush knew what he did, and did it. By overthrowing Saddam Hussein, he earned a trust for the nation, for how it would be. And how he would be president, but he didn't really do good on his. He also talked weird. He really couldn't talk it. Why is his famous speech, if either we our enemies to justice, but we bring justice to our enemies, he said justice will be done, and he killed a lot of people. In the war and war on drugs, there was another thing, and that's a big leap forward. Presidency. But the end of George W. Bush presidency. George W. Bush is seen as the worst president ever. He was dumb. He was telling why is he president at all? He won against John Kerry. Well, I guess John Kerry was a man. I guess John Kerry was a horrible man. He won against Okay, let's go back. He won against George W. Bush won against who's this guy? What was his Al Gore. He went against Al Gore. What the heck? This guy, what the? The thing about Barack Obama is a president once. He was the first African American. He did on the planet have the most. He really had a nation behind him. In 2009, his presidency still continued to become a great presidency. And he won by a landslide victory between the Republicans. He also dealt with a crisis referring to his problem, and he did what an ordinary politician do: get the speeches back. Barack Obama was born in Hawaii, and he was definitely a president who responded by force and ideas that would ever lead to Obama's most incredible act between us.
Obama was a great president.
Yeah, he was.
He'll be a great president. As long as I live.
Again, that sound comes off. President Obama also did some things that were very offensive. As you know, Obama's legacy is tainted between the fact that Obama did some things, but he did health care, metaphors. He did what he did, and we know him today as a very, very interesting president. As for blacks. Another thing that Obama is really interesting for is how he made foreign policy. And this is your last chance. Do something about it.
Well, I think Obama was president who knew what to do and knew what had to happen because his presidency was a very vulnerable presidency.
Yes, it was a very vulnerable presidency. And a presidency that is a very, very new kind of presidency. A presidency that did between tons of things. And a presidency that became, and morally because of his presidency, Obama really fit in. He was reelected, and the point of his presidency did not come out always and vital. He still succeeded on health care and all those other stuff. But one thing that he didn't succeed on really propelled his presidency. In 2014, he did more items to have to get his presidency done with unreal ideas. He calls a very, very big thing to his presidency and a very, very tough thing to his rule. Because Barack Obama, by in minute, is really president. In 2015, Barack Obama became infest. This is the thing. Barack Obama's infancy is too late to discuss it. But the one thing that Obama is definitely infected is America. Because the history of it is a very advanced. The history of the American presidency. A ball placed by America. The United States of America. A presidency motivated between whole hearts and programmed. The presidency that defines rates, hopes, and phonetics for the nation. It was a presidency from Washington to Obama who intended a lot of effort to cover nation ideas of industry. And a nation that was a very important nation for the world and for the world state.